Thank you once again. Thanks for joining us this afternoon for the Peer Exchange featuring some activity recently that should be of interest to all of you that the Georgia Energy Finance Authority has undertaken related to EPX, the reporting tool for energy savings performance contracting. So housekeeping, we're a Zoom meeting today, so if you have questions, you can drop them in the chat box or you can raise your hand and we'll keep an eye for those hands being raised and try to get to you either during the sort of the scheduled question and answer session or certainly by the end. You can unmute, you can unpause or unhide your screen, and then the links, the slides for this Peer Exchange today will be provided later. There are a number of links you'll see, and those will all be enabled. So this will be a great resource to you later after today's meeting that you can also share with colleagues who weren't able to make it in person today. So today, what we're going to focus on is the Georgia Environmental Finance Authority's activities, again, related to implementing EPX as a tool to track and measure impacts for energy savings performance contracting. And we'll start off with introductions. Then we're going to talk a little bit about EPX. Many of you probably know about EPX. There's going to be another workshop next week I'll talk about that's a deeper dive on that. We'll hand it over to our guest today from GEFA, and then we'll have an opportunity for Q&A and then finish up with some resources that are available to you after the event today. So introductions. My name is Doug Taylor. I'm the Executive Director of the Energy Services Coalition. Prior to this role, I served for just over 2 decades as the Director of the State Energy Conservation in Texas. So the State Energy Office there managing a number of programs, including energy savings performance contracting, technical assistance, revolving loan programs, et cetera. We're also happy to be joined with us today is Christopher Anderson, who's the Director of Energy Resources for GEFA, and then Miracle Wilson, who is the Energy Project Manager also with GEFA. And you'll be hearing from them in just a bit. So the Energy Services Coalition, if you're not familiar with it, we are a national nonprofit organization, public-private, comprised of experts on both sides of the desk, so to speak, public sector entities, representatives of those entities, including energy managers, project managers, finance people, and then also service providers, so energy services companies, different finance providers, the whole supporting cast. And the idea behind the ESC is to provide a platform for better learning, adoption of ESPC as a tool for implementing upgrades, both energy and water, and to share experiences. So very similar to what the ESPC campaign that the Department of Energy has launched is aiming to achieve. We have local chapters, again, public and private sector individuals. If you're a public sector member, you're not currently part of a state chapter or ESC, you can join. There's not a cost for that if you're public sector. If you're a private sector, you can join as well. There is a fee for private sector, and more can be found at our website there. So what is eProject Express? You probably have heard of this before, and this is going to be really the focus of today's peer exchange. So EPX, I've highlighted a couple of words here, is a secure, that's key, web-based, that's key also, system that is really a repository for energy savings performance contracting projects, details, performance, schedules, A to Z. And EPX was created as sort of an easier pathway to capturing this information, being able to institutionalize it. There is another system that is similar to eProject Express called eProject Builder, which is much more in-depth. It is used for the Federal Energy Management Program for tracking energy savings performance contracting performance there. But it's a fairly heavy lift to implement. And so EPX lays on top of that is sort of an easier user interface, but with the same objectives. being able to track and report information both at the project level and the portfolio level. The other key thing is this is a tool that was developed by Lawrence Berkeley National Lab in support of and with support from the U.S. Department of Energy. So this is a free resource. This is not a software. This is not another sort of tool that you would have to buy or acquire or procure. It is available to use today, provided again through the federal government, through the Department of Energy as a tool. And more on it is available at these links below. So how to get started, user guides, training videos, a whole lot there. And then deep dive recordings with slides are available there as well. Again, all provided through the Department of Energy and the Lawrence Berkeley National Lab. The principal value of this, if you know, in the public sector is that you may have a project lead for an ESPC project, and that project lead may be reassigned, may take a different job. And with that project lead, much of the institutional memory walks out with them. And so then a year later, 2 years later, someone else comes in, or at the management level, you're asked, how is this project performing? And you have to go back and go through records and try to sort of recreate the project and understand where things are. eProject Express is a tool that can capture all that information and make it usable and viewable to anyone that you allow. So again, the idea here is to really make this information accessible, long-lasting, protected, secure, and available to anyone. And with that, I'm now going to turn it over to our peer speakers and guests today. First, introduce Miracle Wilson, who's the Energy Program Manager with GEFA, and then Chris Anderson, who's Director of that office, to talk a little bit about their plans, their needs, and how EPX was a good fit for some of those things. So with that, Chris and Miracle.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for having us. We're definitely excited to share kind of our insight on almost a year now for implementing it into our RFQ last year. But first, I see the agenda here. We're going to start off with a few little comments from Chris talking about just the history in GEFA, and then we'll go into some initial first steps, the timing of when we implemented this new EPX kind of language in our RFQ, and some lesson learned and next steps. So I'll go ahead and hand it off to Chris.
All right, thanks, Miracle. Thanks, Dub. Good afternoon, everyone. Again, I'm Chris Anderson, Director of Energy Resources at the Georgia Environmental Finance Authority. We are the state's energy office, and so within our office, one of our responsibilities is to manage and implement the state's performance contracting program for state agencies and state colleges and universities. So a little bit of background on performance contracting in Georgia before I hand it back over to Miracle. We were really one of the I think maybe the second to last state in the country to enable performance contracting for our state agencies. Prior to 2010, it was actually illegal for state agencies in Georgia to do a performance contract because they didn't have the ability to borrow money over a multi-year period to pay for performance contracts. So back in 2010, the legislature passed a law, or a law that enabled a constitutional change to allow for state agencies to take on multi-year debt to finance performance contracts. We had to go through the constitutional amendment process, so the public actually had to vote on it as an amendment on the ballot that fall. So it was a pretty big lift, but as part of the legislation, GEFA was actually tasked to be the entity that would create the program and then implement it and manage it for the state. And so after that passed, we really spent a couple of years designing what the program would look like and trying to figure out how we could best make it work for the state, and then to educate state agencies and college and universities on how the program works. And so we did all that groundwork, and by the time we got to about 2014, we started to move forward with our very first projects. And in the years since, I think now we've done almost 100 million worth of projects have been executed and constructed over the state. We have more in the pipeline today. And so it's really been a pretty good bit of growth. You know, we've gone through some kind of bumps over the period where we've had a bunch of projects at once and then a few years gap before we get the next project. But it seems like we're kind of picking back up again with more projects. So as part of our program, you know, we created the rules and requirements that state agencies have to follow. We created the model contract documents, the model procurement documents, and we also, by law, have to create a pre-qualified ESCO list as well that state agencies have to work from. So really, we created a pretty, I think, structured program, and we've developed a good bit of internal resources for state agencies who want to procure projects. One of the requirements that we do have that relates directly to this conversation this afternoon is that as part of managing the program, we have to collect data on the program or on all the projects each year and be able to report that data to state leadership. And so in the past, we've required all the agencies that have projects to submit their annual project data. So actually data on how much they're saving compared to their guarantee each year. And so we've done that over the years. But really we've been hoping and really kind of looking for ways to improve that. Obviously, there's some challenges getting that data, especially when you look at a project that could have a 15-year life on the payback. Going back to that agency and doing that over 15 years, you know, there can be some challenges getting that. So, you know, one of the things that we've been looking at is how we can improve that and really make that easier for us and easier for the agencies and the ESCOs. And one of the things that that we realized is that this would be a good tool to, I think, help that process. And so, you know, Miracle's been working on that on our end, getting that in place and starting to work with the agencies and the ESCOs to be able to do that. And we're hopeful that we can really keep doing it in years to come and make it easier and more streamlined. So with that, that's a little bit of background on our program. We're happy to share information on the program with anyone at any time. So if anyone wants to follow up and have a look at our documents or any program details, we're happy to do that. But with that, I'll turn it back over to Miracle.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris. Debbie, you can go ahead to the next slide. And I think that definitely teed us up for kind of, you know, what our history was, where we are now, kind of how we got here. And we joined the ESPC campaign last 2 years now, in 2023, as a leader and kind of, you know, piggybacking off of some of Chris's points. You know, there was some time where there was a lull in some projects coming in, and then there's, you know, an overflow of projects. So this was a really big goal of ours, is to kind of have some steadiness to our projects and really become a champion for our state and make sure they have all the type of resources and guidance to, you know, go through an energy performance contract, and especially for those smaller rural communities. And so we really thought joining this campaign would help that as well. And you know, our main topic here is talking about EPX, and with the join of the campaign, there's a lot more access to one-on-ones, particular guidance, templates, and things like that. And going back to kind of the difficulties we work with in gathering the MNV reports, we thought it would alleviate a little bit pressure off all parties. You know, the agent may be missing their MNV report. We have may gotten a month late, or, you know, there may be a turnover at the ESCO. So every party is just going to be a little bit a little bit more streamlined and relaxed when it comes to hopefully getting this information in the coming years. Also, like in our RFQ states that this is a requirement for our ESCOs to submit yearly MMV data. So by putting this not only into our RFQ, but also just becoming a champion on it, puts the responsibility and kind of back into their court. You know, we definitely know that, you know, turnover happens and, you know, sometimes things can get away from you, but that's definitely a requirement that we request from them. So hopefully it would help us kind of streamline that process between GEFA and the ESCO. And then I also talked about a little bit of the technical assistance that we've gained from here, from becoming a leader, understanding the tool, getting templates, training, some tutorials, and it's been a lot easier to create counts and guide others through that as well. Next. So kind of getting into the meat of how we got here, why we implemented it. So like I said, you know, prior to this, like 3 months later in 2023, we had joined the campaign. We got really good exposure to this new tool. Many of our pre-qualified ESCOs have a eProject Builder account. They're familiar, but going back to what Dub said, it can be a little bit convoluted and that wasn't a requirement of ours before now is using a software like that. So we thought we needed to kind of implement this fast, seeing the challenges we've had with collecting data and reporting it up to our state agencies and legislators. So we thought of adding it just that winter. We were coming up on a new cycle. Our expiration cycle was in May, so all of our previous pre-qualified ESCOs were going to be out of contract in March of 2024. So we decided just to jump and go ahead and add it into the RFQ and then post it out a month prior. So as you can see, we added it in February 27th, 2024. And the timing was pretty crucial. It worked out for us pretty well, given that the old expiration date was coming up and, you know, this is a new thing that we can add. People are going to have to review the documents again. So it's a perfect opportunity for them to know what's changed. I mean, most of these documents, of course, don't change that much. People are knowing what they're, you know, submitting their documents year after year, but it was a perfect time to kind of send out the update a month prior and let them know that, hey, everything else will be the same, but, you know, I know it can just be kind of a sign-off thing for upper management, but this is something you also are going to be required to do. And so that gave us time to answer any questions, educate people a little bit about what that change was. And all of our ESCOs came back from the previous years, but it also gives that time for the ESCO to really think about, you know, if they want to abide by the requirement as well. I'm not going to read this off, but that's the new language that we added into our documents. Of course, just a basic definition of what EPX is, and then adding to additional terms and conditions, acknowledging that they will be using it, monitoring it to capture data and metrics for any of their performance contractings. Next. While going through this process, kind of some lessons learned that we had some struggles getting to, as I mentioned, the eProject Builder. Some people have accounts, some people don't, or, you know, the people that had the account, you know, have left, and it kind of goes into hone into the point later on in training to keep a just company-wide email so everybody has access to it. Just a general email, so you know no one's ever left out of the loop. It's easy to log in and out for anybody. So it's also a little bit harder to get them more familiar with the EPX now because they know and had experience with eProject Builder. It's a lot less information. I think it's very streamlined, simple, but kind of, backtracking from eProject Builder and still having them involved is a little bit of a challenge of kind of training them to not look at eProject Builder anymore and eProject Express and know it's a much lighter tool. It's not that heavy of a lift. And it's, very transparent for all parties involved. Another thing is kind of, transferring a lot of things from paper to electronics. Definitely, that's definitely happening in a lot of people's offices. But everybody reports their M and V data fairly differently. Obviously the main metrics are there: energy savings, water savings, and any other additional savings or rebates that came back. But it isn't as streamlined as just say, take this template from yours and put it into EPX. So that is a little education on kind of narrowing down those documents because there's a lot of words and um, descriptive information that goes along with the metrics. So just what do they need to put into the new software? And this will also help possibly, just getting used to an annual schedule. They know that they're going to have to do it annually, just log in once a year, just upload it, and then you're kind of done with that. So getting them used to doing it annually and also providing more technical assistance and training through our experience and also our resources to make sure, they're able to sign in, that they understand the software and they understand the process and who has visibility of what information. And then also another thing, going back to, kind of turnover is biannual check-ins. Just checking in with your ESCOs, seeing if they have any questions, reviewing over documents, making sure the process is still the same. There are some states that, may switch up their documents or extend or higher their budget count or budget limits, debt limit, I would say. So I think it's important now going forward is to have some type of check-in biannually or even just yearly at that, is just to, even if they don't have a project going on, making sure they're good on an understanding of what we're doing, what they're maybe seeking out, and if they have any questions on the documents. And next.
Miracle, before we move on, I just wanted to kind of expand on something you said. So the ESCOs that either did not have a eProject Builder account or weren't familiar with EPX, I know I've heard from a number of ESCOs that are active both at the federal level with the FEMP program and then also separately with state and local government activities and projects. And those are really like two discrete divisions within the ESCOs. So a lot of times somewhere in the company, there may be someone that's familiar with eProject Builder because we're using it for FEMP and for federal projects.
Right.
But then the folks that are more involved in state and local, this is all new. So we've heard that from a few.
Yeah, that'll be definitely great to streamline, but that's interesting to hear though. I know someone definitely has the account because
Yeah.
It's information in there, but yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean that's just kind of some of the challenges. You hear them in all different offices, but what do we have going on next? What are we going to keep being pushed forward? We're definitely still going to be a champion for our projects here. Like Chris mentioned, we have some more coming down in the pipeline, and I think we're gaining traction a bit more that, there will be some annual interest and, people are looking for projects, people are staying connected more so. And that's what I definitely, kind of want to have out of this program. And, whether you have a project going on, just make sure everybody's up to date and in conversation. And so one of our first steps last year in December was kind of hosting a webinar. We hadn't had one in quite a few years, maybe right after COVID or right before COVID, but that was a little bit of a lull time. So kind of just wanted to wrap everybody up and get a refresher going on. That webinar was focused on small municipalities, kind of trying to bring them up, get them familiar with the process, kind of wade through the water of, good and bad actors and what questions you should ask, go over documents, etc. So really focus on getting them as educated and comfortable with the process as possible, because we do have a lot of interest with the smaller munis. And then also, we would like to, going forward, we're still working on this process of getting everybody and the data into the EPX, but start organizing one-on-ones with our ESCOs, making sure they're understanding the process of entering the data, if they have any questions, or if they need more technical assistance, kind of just see what they need from us so they can better provide and more accurate on time MMV data. And then upcoming, we are looking to host another webinar this summer, which is going to be focused on schools, so universities and K-12 schools. We have a big university interest here for performance contracting, so that'll be a great group to touch on. But yeah, those are going to be some items coming up for us. And next. And yeah, so that's a little bit about how we integrated EPX into performance contracting here in Georgia. I think it was really just about, and I can say this on and on again, about the timing, because a lot of people did have some questions, but as long as you kind of get in on the front end, make sure everybody's aware, it's nothing that you have to act on right then and there, because there's going to take some time to develop the training, education, and relationship to start putting that in with your ESCO. But definitely adding that in has helped a lot, and we've definitely gotten a lot more MMV datas stating that we're going to put this into EPX. So a lot of people, I feel like, are on board. So yeah, I appreciate the time again, and thanks, Dub.
Great. Yeah, thanks so much for sharing that. One of the things that if you're new to EPX, and you may have heard Miracle say this a few times, but getting the data into the system is a hurdle, not a barrier. And so it's becoming familiar with how that input is structured. And one of the things that LBL has done is to create essentially a spreadsheet input template. It's designed to streamline and facilitate data input into the tool itself, making that as easy as possible. And I believe there is some ability to do field mapping and things from existing M&V reports into that spreadsheet to automate the process. So it's not a manual process, not something that's going to create a lot of additional time or work. It's a matter of setting up those connections almost in like an API type format, so that information is populated automatically. So that's really the ideal scenario.
Yeah. Okay,
so moving on to some Q&A and discussions, and this is for everyone on the phone, or on the Zoom, and also for folks at GEFA. If you'd like to comment on any of these, some of these we've covered already. I'm not going to read through these, but just highlighting a couple of things. Are there specific challenges you face when managing data, capturing data for the projects, and could EPX help? How would EPX fit into your existing reporting processes, benefits? Again, kind of the fundamental value proposition for EPX is this provides continuity and allows data to be really institutionalized, so that performance can be measured across years, across subject matter experts, across people. And then also as Miracle highlighted, stakeholders, right? These are both the local governments, the state agencies that may be impacted by this, but also the ESCOs and sort of adopting this. Who are those folks? And then if you haven't yet adopted a standardized reporting platform, what are the drivers? What are the gaps? What are the needs? Chris mentioned some of this in the outset in his comments, but I'll stop there and see if anyone wants to unmute themselves and share any background or information on some of these challenges and how you might see EPX as a tool to address them. And I would also say that these are questions, if you're not really prepared to talk about them today, these are discussion questions you can take back to your team to sort of think through, are we in a good position in terms of reporting, and is EPX a tool? And these may be some prompts to help members of your team think about those issues as well.
Hi, Deb. This is Courtney, not actually Jamie. Sorry, I had technical issues logging in. So
no worries. Hi, Courtney.
Courtney Bonus with California Department of General Services. And yeah, so we definitely have, about 100 energy savings performance contracts that we have in both our own kind of Excel workbook and then also an eProject builder. I do find that we need both. eProject Builder doesn't quite have all of the fields that we need that kind of explain like our internal state of California, like financing, and just, there are quite a few additional columns that we need for each project. But what I do love about eProject Builder is that whenever we're asked randomly, what's your overall savings from a specific measure, such as lighting, it's very easy to pull it up. So I guess my answer would be that there are pros and cons to eProject Builder. It's great, for formalizing it and having all of that information in one place. And then, like I said, the con would just be that we don't have all of the columns that we need that are kind of specific to California DGS. So we do have to have our own large Excel workbook in addition to eProject Builder.
Yeah, thanks, Courtney. That makes perfect sense. I think as a foundational tool to capture and measure impact of the projects, this is really what it's designed for. I think when you try to simplify and streamline, just by doing that, you're going to miss out on some of that customization that may be needed depending on other state or local government specific reporting. So that makes sense that you would have an Excel sheet to capture some of those California and DGS specific fields, but then also again have as the foundational kind of performance measurement and accounting system, eProject Builder and EPX. Anyone else?
I guess I'll chime in and say maybe like an additional feature as like a reminder or like some deadlines if there's some way that the agency I guess in our part put in their first MMV report. It's from this month fiscal year to this month. So when that month comes back around the following year, is there able to send reminders or like send a red flag to all emails saying we hope to have this soon or this is overdue, etc.
Okay, so a trigger, just a reminder.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And do you see, Miracle, in Georgia, the agencies themselves or the ESCOs on behalf of the agencies providing and populating the information?
Definitely our ESCOs are
Okay.
providing information. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how long under the Georgia authorization for ESPC is MNV done? Is it a 3-year or 5-year and then tapers off, or is it life of the project?
Life.
Life. Okay.
Yep.
All right, so you're going to have
As
that
long as
M&V
they're
component.
financing it and paying back the bank, they've got to report.
Gotcha. Okay. Yep. So there will be ongoing M&B. Okay. Great. Sorry. What? Anyone else? Okay. Good discussion. Good information. I'm going to launch a quick poll. We always, as this is part of the ESPC campaign I mentioned, that is supported by the Department of Energy. We're always trying to get feedback and how to sort of make this information better. So I'm going to try to run a poll here and it's not cooperating. We'll try it again. There we go. Okay, I'm going to leave this up for a second and just take a look. Some of these are kind of simple Q&A, and others require a little bit of a brief, short answer. But if you could take a look at this, and we'll capture some impacts and some results, and again, trying to help make this program and this project better for everyone going forward. I'll leave this up here for a few minutes. Then we will give you a signal that we're going to close it down, and then we'll wrap up with some resources and some other information. And so the first question is on tools that are used for tracking. Second one is topics and future peer exchange. It doesn't have to be limited to measurement and impact reporting for EPX or others. If you have a project you'd like to highlight or an activity, just to let you know, we are working for a next peer exchange in the June timeframe with the state of North Carolina to highlight a project there with their Department of Corrections. So more information coming there. And then we know people are busy, and so trying to figure out kind of the right cadence for these peer exchanges. Is that probably not a monthly, but most likely a quarterly or twice a year? And then any other questions? And it looks like most people have responded, so I'll go ahead and end the poll. Then we'll move to wrap up. So resources and upcoming events. So EPX, everything that we've talked about and more is here on the EPX help and documentation page. This is a hyperlink. You'll get these in the slides. Again, there are trainings, recordings, both comprehensive and also sort of just-in-time recordings that dive into certain elements of EPX. There are the supporting slides for those there. These can be, viewed by anyone. So this can be local governments, agencies you're working with. This can be the ESCOs that are doing work. If you have a project, and this is campaign related, that you would like to highlight in the form of a case study, we have a case study submission form there that you can indicate that you've got something, and we'll work with you to develop that into a case study. We have 3 new case studies just published on the ESC website, different types of projects. We're looking to build and refresh that library. If you're not yet a partner of the ESPC campaign, you can click on this link and indicate your interest in joining the campaign, and there's a partnership agreement that'll be sent to you. Some ongoing resources. Sorry about that. Go back. That under the Better Buildings program, which is a Department of Energy program that's been in operation for a number of years, there's a whole ESPC toolkit with a number of things evaluating results, the business case for M&V. The question comes up a lot, well, this has a cost to it. What's the real value? This is a good white paper on, again, kind of the business case for that. At the federal level, some of the tools available that really in concept transfer to state and local governments, the Performance Contracting National Resource Center, everything you could imagine there. It's good to spend some time and understand what's there. You've got legislation, you've got contracts, model documents, trainings, a lot of things. M&V guidelines, again, for FEMP, which translate over to state and local. And then other IPMVP, this is on the M&V side, different tools and resources for owners. So these are all there. You'll get this, you'll have those links as a resource. And again, share these with your colleagues if they were unable to join us this afternoon. Training events upcoming. I mentioned this earlier, but next week, the LBL is hosting a training webinar on EPX, and Courtney, who's on today with the California DGS, will talk about their experience with EPX. So you can register for that, again, through this link. You can go to the LBL website. You can just Google LBL EPX and you'll see it. So that's a good follow-on opportunity, a bit deeper dive next week from a training perspective. And then Miracle alluded to this earlier as a campaign partner. We provide direct technical assistance. And so this can be kind of bespoke depending on what the needs are. And if you would like assistance from essentially experts in the ESPC field that have served on the side of the table as an owner's rep for property owners, public sector property owners, or have other questions on M&V, there's a sign up form, and we'll schedule a time for that one-on-one technical assistance. And this is provided through the ESPC campaign, so there's not a cost for this. So a great value. And with that, we will wrap up for today a few minutes early, give you 10-15 minutes of your afternoon back. If you have any questions at all, I can be reached here, Deb Taylor at Energy Services Coalition. Again, this is the ESC website, and then the ESPC campaign can be reached this way through this general email address as well. So thank you for joining us this afternoon, and look for a copy of these slides in your inbox shortly. And if you have any questions, please reach out. Thank you, Chris, and thanks, Miracle.
Thank you.
Right. Bye now.